Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to our Sunday's meeting here in the Spiritist Center of Ireland. I just wanted to, as always, make sure that everything is okay before I start. I can see a good morning here. I just want to ask you guys if you can hear me okay, if everything is fine. Good morning, Camila. If you could just let me know if you can hear me and everything's working fine. Or anyone else. I see there are more people. Good morning, Kaka. How are you? Good morning, Carmen. So it seems that it's working, and I just wanted to make sure my microphone is working as well, and you guys can hear me. Loud and clear. Okay, Tom, thank you so much. Good morning to you. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to check my phone as well to see if I can see here Facebook Live and everything is working. So it is. Good. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much again for being here. My name is Samanta Alves. I am one of the workers in the Spiritist Center of Ireland. As you guys all know, we are not having our meetings in person, so we are doing our lives on Sundays. We also have some other activities during the week. I'm going to talk about them at the end, but this is what is replacing for the moment our Sundays meetings. So today I am going to talk about self-esteem and loving yourself or loving ourselves. I hope you guys like my talk. But before we start, let's do our initial prayers. So I just wanted to ask you guys to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Just elevate your thoughts to Jesus. Thank you so much, dear Jesus, for this beautiful morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity again to be here, united, having our meeting. Thank you for technology, for everything that this can bring us, for the possibility of continuing our activities, even though we are having all the problems that we are having at the moment. So this is very, very good for us to have the opportunity to continue our work. Thank you so much for our lives, for everything that happens to us, for everything that we have accomplished in our lives, and everything that we can accomplish in our lives as well. Help us during this process. Help us opening our hearts, our ears, our minds to everything that you want to teach us, so we can progress and develop and be our best always. Thank you so much for everything, dear Jesus, dear God, dear spiritual friends. And help us during this talk. Help us understand everything that you want us to understand this morning. So be it. Okay, so let's start. I am going to share my screen. I hope you guys can see my screen. Okay. So I hope you guys can see my screen fine. I'll just check my phone to see what you guys are seeing, just to make sure. Okay, so it seems like I am sharing my screen fine and everything's fine. So let's start. As I said, today we are going to talk about self-esteem and loving ourselves, or love yourself. This is a very important topic, I would say, and a very well, it's even more important to me because I think elaborating this talk, I learned so much, and a lot of things kind of fell in place in my head, because I personally had some questions about this thing of self-esteem. What is self-esteem? Is it just the ability to love ourselves regardless of anything? And is it something innate that we have, or maybe we have or we don't have? So is it like kind of deterministic, as if you have it if you were born with it and you don't have it if you weren't? Or is it something we can develop? Or if it's something that we can develop, what is the right way of developing it? And this whole notion of self-esteem that we see, on the internet, or when we talk to people, and you're having a problem, and someone say to you, you need to love yourself, you need to feel happy about the way you are, regardless of anything. And when people talk to you like that, and they have all the best intentions, of course they're caring for you, but at the same time, it doesn't really make us happier about ourselves or about the situation. So how can I have it? So how can I develop self-esteem and have it? And I think I found all my answers, right? So let's start with some definition. In the dictionary, it says that self-esteem is an appreciation that a person gives to themselves, allowing them to have confidence in their own actions and thoughts. So I kind of marked some words here because I wanted us to pay attention to these words specifically. So it is an appreciation, right, that we give to ourselves. And this appreciation allows us to have confidence in our own actions and thoughts. So this is a very simplistic definition that we can find in the dictionary. But then I searched a little bit more, and I saw this article from this guy called Paulo César T. Ribeiro. And this is an article about self-esteem. Paulo César T. Ribeiro is a psychologist, and what he says is, self-esteem is the ability to value yourself, to recognize and accept your own gifts, abilities, and develop self-love. This implies the ability to trust yourself, to feel able to face life challenges, and to know how to express your own needs and desires in an appropriate way for yourself and others. So I found this definition really good because it kind of have all the elements that we are going to study this morning about self-esteem. And you're going to understand when I finish the talk, hopefully, if I do it well. So I hope you can understand all the items that I marked here as well. So important parts of this definitions to me would be recognize and accept your own gifts, abilities, and develop self-love. So this is really interesting. I'm going to talk about those things more. in a minute. And then he continues saying the ability to trust yourself, right? So you need to trust, you need to have this self-confidence. And then with that, you can face the challenges in your life and also express that. And this will be something good for yourself and to others. So that's why I liked so much this definition. It's a very good summary of everything that we are going to talk today. But we are going to talk in more detail about all of those things so we can understand this better. So it is important, and the Spiritist teachings shows us that for you to be able to develop love, you need to meditate and you need to do a self-analysis, right? So when we say meditate here, it's not exactly meditation, in the way we understand it, but it's more like having this quiet time for you to think about it and then do some self-analysis. And love actually equals resolving internal concerns, which produces disaffection. And we are going to talk about a few books that was written by, they were written by Joana de Angelis and they were psychographed by Divaldo Franco. And one of them is Garimpo de Amor, what would be translated to Mining of Love. And in this book, Joana de Angelis says, invariably, the lack of love is due to conflicts that remain from a badly loved childhood, and from accumulated frustrations, and from projects that were not consummated as they were longed for, giving rise to inferiority complexes, insecurity, and psychological escapes. So, let me just check. I think I received a message here saying that you guys can't see my slides. Let me just change my screen here and see. You guys see my slides now? I think that you were just seeing one of these slides, just the initial one. Okay. Okay, cool. So you can see everything now. I hope. Well, yeah. So I hope I changed the slides here. Just want to make sure it changed for you guys as well. I hope it did. So let's continue. So Joana de Angelis was saying that we have this inferiority complex that is caused by conflicts that we have in our childhood, and also some frustrations that we kind of accumulate during our lives, right? But she also says that this, plus all the frustrations that or things that happened in our past lives as well. So we have all this built up feelings inside of us, right? So this generates what we call inferiority complex. An inferiority complex consists of a set of ideas that were repressed in us, and it kind of remains unconscious in us, and and it has consequences. So one of the consequences that it has is guilt. You know, this enormous guilt that we have, and sometimes we have this feeling we don't even know why we have it and where it comes from. So we also can have bad thoughts. We have thoughts of inadequacy, um, devaluation of our personal ability, all of those feelings that we have inside us. We don't really understand where they come from. And there's this other book by the Spirit Hamed that was psychographic by Francisco do Espírito Santo Neto. And this book is called As Dores da Alma, the Pains of the Soul. And in this book, Hamed says, for a better understanding of our considerations, we will define the term repression as a psychic process through which unacceptable or unpleasant memories, feelings, ideas, and desires are excluded from consciousness, remaining only in the unconscious. So we kind of have all of those things unconscious in us. We don't even access this feeling so much. And it has it kind of materializes in our lives in a way of self-punishment. So sometimes we take ourselves from the joys of living. We run away from friends or from resources that can make us happy. And it actually prevents us from resolving these conflicts and for being able to construct relationships that will also help us in the way. Another kind of consequence that can have this feelings can have is we can be armed with aggression. So we can be this aggressive person that avoids any type of conflict or any type of situations that they would feel uncomfortable, and the way they can do it is basically being aggressive. So the Spiritism literature will show us that for us to be able to deal with all of those things, we need to have a little bit of self-knowledge, right? So we need to identify these feelings, and with this, we can propose a new feeling of self-esteem, self-respect, and self-consideration, right? So it is important to understand where these feelings of jealousy, insecurity, self-depreciation, and happiness, where all of this comes from. And there's a lot of ways of having self-knowledge. So in another book, Joana de Angelis will explain to us, and this book is Conflitos Existenciais, Raiva e Transtorno Emocional, which would translate to existential conflicts, anger, and emotional disorder. So she says, in some way, the insecurity of one's own value predisposed to an armed position against everything and everyone, as if that was the best way to save oneself from suffering and distributing and disturbing challenges. So basically, when you have this inferiority complex, it can also be manifested in another way, which is kind of the opposite of inferiority complex, which is superiority posture. And sometimes when you see some people that show superiority posture, you can think that they think they are better than everyone else, and that they have this, that they have this enormous appreciation for themselves. When actually it could be the opposite. It could be that inside them, they have all those feelings that we are talking about, and they don't really know how to deal with them. So the way it's basically a mechanism of defense. So the way they deal with them is having this superiority posture, and this can be manifested in many ways. But it's basically um, just let's say it's founded in the belief that if this person can show the world or can act in a way that they show that they can manage those feelings, they actually believe that they can manage those feelings, in that way. So they try to compensate for this feeling of inferiority by adopting ways of living in which they exaggerate and they exalt their own personalities. They have a tendency to arrogance, megalomaniac delirium, and they have a preference for ostentation. So they welcome in their intimacy and this belief that their value can be showed through material things as well. When we say material things, we are not saying only the things that we can touch, but for example, a position in this world, being very important, or influential, or being the best in some field, which is not bad. I'm not saying that all of this is those things are always bad. No, what I'm saying is for some people it's just a mechanism of defense, and that's the way they deal with the inferiority complex. And you can see that it's not healthy. It's not like a person has a dream and they fight for the dream the whole life and then they acquire something, or they become I don't know, a very good doctor or a very good engineer, someone in their field, something like this. It's not like that. It's more like they have this need to prove, not only for the world but for themselves as well, that they are good, and all of that is because of this inferiority complex. So it's a very complex thing altogether. So this materialistic belief also comes from what the Spiritist literature will say to us, that is spiritual immaturity. So those people, they are the beliefs of chance. So they believe that everything happens by chance. There's no reason for it, for anything. And in another book, which is the Spirit's book, we always look for information in the Spirit's book, because this is our basis for everything. And in chapter 1, question 8, you can see that we found that it would be absurd to attribute primary formation to a random combination of matter, or on the other hand, to chance. The existing harmony in the mechanism of the universe, it reveals an intelligent power. Chance is blind and cannot produce the effects that intelligence produces. And intelligence, chance, would no longer be chance. So I was watching this documentary the other day about the formation of the universe. So it's basically just a 10 minutes talk, 12 minutes talk, or something like this. Actually, it's not a documentary. It's one of those TED Talks. And this guy was a whole history of our universe or our lives and where we come from in 12 minutes, which was amazing, and almost impossible, but he did it, and in a very gracious way. And when we see the talk, it's just so interesting how the universe formed, and you can see the work of God there. through the billions of years, the way everything happened and the way things get together, and this association that we talk about, that everything is linked together. You can see in this story that he tells in 12 minutes. It's just amazing how things just came together, and you can't believe it's by chance. You can see that there's a force, driving all of the happenings that preceded us, and now we are here, and this is not by chance. This is not by chance as we believe it. We Spiritists believe it. And this belief actually helps us. So the more you believe in chance, the more inferiority complex you have, unfortunately. Right? So then this belief or actually feeling, having this spiritual maturity, let's say like that, it helps us a lot. And again, as I was saying, the materialistic creature needs to believe that they are superior to compensate for their belief in the insignificance of existence or the meaningless in which they live. So the spiritual being, they believe that they are neither worse nor better than the others, because they perceive and they act with their sense turned to eternity. And they know that each person is as good as they can be according to their evolutionary degree. So this is really important. Understanding your position in the world, understanding that you're neither worse nor better than anyone else, just puts you in a very kind position. And when I say kind, I mean kind with you and also kind with others. And we Spiritists, we believe that we are immortal beings. So basically, the Spiritist literature will teach us that there are some ways of developing spiritual maturity. The first thing is to understand that we are immortal, that we are full and complete, living a human experience that will help us in the way of progressing. Then the second thing would be reflect on the causes of our beliefs. So all these feelings that we talked about and this inferiority complex and all of that. So we need to reflect on those things and the causes of those things. Sometimes we will understand them, sometimes we won't, but even the movement that we do to understand them helps us, because it puts us in a position of humility, and it helps a lot. It just opens our mind to understand the things that we need to understand. And then the third thing would be to come to terms with them. So whatever happened to you, whatever you did, you can't change your past, so there's nothing you can do about them. You can only come to terms with them and understand that, well, I accomplished a few things, and you need to see this with the good eyes, but I haven't accomplished a lot of other things that I still have to accomplish. And the focus here is not on the errors or the mistakes or the bad things that you did in the past. If you understand that they are bad, that is a lot in itself. That is a lot in itself. And then with this understanding, you can build inner strength. And that is the most important thing in the way of self-esteem and in loving or learning to love yourself. And again, another book by, or actually the same book about, by Spirit Hamid, that was psychographed by Francisco do Espírito Santo Neto, As Dores da Alma, we can see also that he talks about us being victims of ourselves. So he says that low esteem or self-pity can lead us to be victims of ourselves, as we will be adding up these negative emotions in the form of illness. And the symptoms of the disease can be consisted in the physical way of expressing in our an internal attitude or even a conflict. So therefore, the sick are not only the innocent victims of some breakdown in nature, but also the facilitators of their own disease. I think this is really important because there are two things here. One thing is, we learn in Spiritism that we kind of have a plan when we come here. So a lot of things that happens to us, especially in our body, because we kind of choose, well, this can be another talk, but we kind of choose the way we come. You know, if you're going to have blue or brown eyes, or, you know, the color of your skin, maybe some innate diseases that we will have or that we will develop, you have a kind of a plan. And all of those things, they are important to you because they have a reason with them, and you want to accomplish something, and you have this plan before you come. But there's also a lot of other things that happens to us here, and we didn't plan for them. So we are victims, let's say this word, because we are trying to analyze things from the perspective of being here, not knowing what we planned before. But we can also be, so we are victims of the circumstances, but we can also be victims of ourselves. And when we have these beliefs and all these feelings, and we don't treat them, and we don't want to deal with them, we develop certain illness. And in psychology, it is already proved that we have this psychomatic, I don't know the word exactly in English. So you actually manifest in your body the feelings that you have. And it's already proved, and there's a lot of studies that show that for a specific feeling, you manifest a specific disease because it acts in a specific part of your body. But the fact is that having these feelings, you can develop those illness, and that is not good. So we don't want to be victims of ourselves, and we don't want to take refuge in self-pity and rebellion, because those things also don't help us. Having the self-pity or being rebellious against the world or the people, or, you know, assuming this posture will not only not help us, but it will actually create new other problems that we'll have to deal in the future. And we understand, again, Spiritism teaches us that we are progressing. We are in this way of perfection, and one day we are going to be perfect. So, and this is one of the laws of the universe. So if we are going to be perfect one day, there's no way we are going to get away with not dealing with our problems, right? So we'll have to deal with them at some point. So this is actually something that won't help us in the process of perfection. And then in the Spiritist book, question 115, we see Allan Kardec says that God created all spirits simple and ignorant, that is, without knowledge. Spirits in their origin would be like children, ignorant and experienced, only gradually acquiring the knowledge they lack as they go through the different phases of life. So just to show us in the Spiritist book, We have this definition, and it shows us this path to progression. And it also talks about basically we coming from unconscious to conscious, unconsciousness to consciousness. So there are a lot of things that we didn't know because, as I said, we were created simple and ignorant, so we didn't know. But we are in the path to knowing them and to becoming more conscious, time by time. So we need to pursue our spiritual development. And when we say the spirits were created ignorant, it doesn't mean that they were created inferior. It's not about being inferior or being wrong or being bad. No, it's just that this is a innate ignorance and simplicity that we have. It's basically just as a sheet, a blank sheet. So there's nothing in it. It's cleaned. It's empty. And then through life, you put things on it, and you write your own story. And that's why everyone's story is different, because we go different paths, right? So we need to change our way of seeing things, and that is not more than the expression of a new vision of ourselves in the universe. So how do we do that? We need to, in a way, reprogram our minds, because there are a lot of, as we talked about, all of those inferiority complex or inferior feelings that make us feel bad and don't really help us. So we need to reprogram our minds and replace those feelings by healthier ones. So there is this passage in the Bible where in Mark, I don't know exactly the where the passage is, but it says that once a desperate father brought his son to the master so that he could be healed. And Jesus said to him, "If you can believe, everything is possible to those who believe." Then the boy's father says, crying out with tears, "I believe, Lord, help my unbelief." So this passage is really, really interesting. I'm really moved by this passage because it has two elements, I'd say. One is he acknowledged, the boy's father acknowledged that he wants to believe, but he doesn't believe yet, because it's like he has this will, he has this wish to have faith that is so strong that can change everything, as Jesus said. But at the same time, he acknowledged that he is human and he has his difficulties. So he asks Jesus, "Lord, help my unbelief." So we all need to ask God and ask Jesus to help our unbelief. We are in this process, the same thing, and through prayer, you can develop that, and you can develop this trust in yourself and in your belief, and this will become bigger and bigger and bigger, and with that it will help you dealing with all those difficulties and feelings. So the Spiritist literature will also talk about small exercises that you can do in affirming personality and self-discovery of values. So you need to work little by little. It's not like you're gonna as we were talking at the beginning, you have this notion of self-esteem. So somebody's going to say to you, you need to love yourself, and then immediately you're going to love yourself. It's not exactly like that how it works. So it's like you need to do it little by little, and there's a lot of resources that you can use, and we talk about them a lot, like prayer, like meditation. So there are a lot of things that you can do, but in small exercises in your life, you try. So if there's a situation that you are used to deal with them in a certain way, try and deal with them in a different way. A way that maybe at the beginning will scare you, but it will build this muscle, and with times things can change. So I was watching this interview. Well, before I talk about the interview, I just want to talk about this thing here very quickly. That is the kind of a mantra, if we can say like that we can have to help us. So this is kind of a compilation of everything that I read in the books that I read for this talk. So we can have these statements, let's say like that. And there's also a lot of psychologists that believe that, well, some of them say fake it until you make it. So basically, even if you don't believe that something is going to be beneficial to you, if you act like it, if it was, then with time it will. Or say, for example, you're afraid of talking in public, and I'm like inside shaking here. I don't think it's all easy for me, but you do it anyway. You go and you do it, and you do it in a way that you make yourself believe that everything is okay, kind of. But with time, doing it one time, and then once again and once again, it will improve. And with time you understand, or you will see that it's easy, and then you just trust that you can do it, right? So this is one thing. And the other thing is, some psychologists believe that the more we say something in your mind, because we have this unconscious feelings and beliefs, so you need to replace them with beliefs that are good and healthy. So saying these statements, maybe at the beginning, it's like people also talk about it as affirmation or powerful affirmations, but it actually has a lot of science behind it, and studies that show that this is really beneficial. So you have these affirmations, and also by saying them, you're reprogramming your mind, and you're teaching your mind to believe those things, and those things with time replace the other beliefs, and they become beliefs as well. So they replace the bad beliefs that you had before. So some of them from the Spiritist literature would be: we are potentially capable of making decisions without having to resort to endless advice. We have a divine individuality completely different from that of others. We do things because we like them, not to please people. We will always find new relationships, therefore we are not afraid of being abandoned. We will constantly use our common sense. Therefore, criticism and disapproval will not reach us easily. We will make our own decisions while respecting those of others. We will trust the greater light that is in us, and it will always guide us through the best paths. So then we should also talk about acceptance, because acceptance is then a valuable resource. when we assume our own difficulties and our imperfections, our various types, we kind of set our place and we understand our limits. And by understanding our limits, we can also understand, if you accept that you have limits, if you accept that you have imperfections, the next thing you do is to see that everyone has them. Everyone, other people also have their difficulties. And in that way, you will start to love yourself and you start to love others as well because you see them same as you. So first you understand all of those things for you, but it also helps you in the relationship with others because, you know, we are all the same. So again, Joanna de Angelis will say to us in the book Existential Conflicts, she will say that guilt is transformed in self-forgiveness. Fear becomes a stimulus for continuous progress, and uncertainties become convictions around victory itself. So it, at the end, will give you integral health. So acceptance is really important. And self-love plays a self-therapeutic action because it frees you from the conflicts of self-punishment, self-censorship, and self-pity. So it not only just get rid of all of those things, but it also opens the field for all the good things. And you start feeling joy, you know, for everything. You start seeing yourself as unfinished, and you start having this you start feeling good about everything that you already achieved, and you build this encouragement for things that you can achieve in the future or that you will achieve in the future. So it sets the field for progress and avoid new mistakes as well. And also it ends that notion of inferiority complex or uh, superiority complex. There's nothing of those things anymore. It's just you as a person that needs to develop, and you are at certain stage of your development, but you're progressing and you're going to get there, and you believe that. So loving ourselves will not be the vulgarization of a new theory or self-worship. For us, egolatry has come to an end because our problem is one of intimate illumination in the march towards God. This love, therefore, must be translated into self-effort, self-education, observation of duty, obedience to the laws of accomplishment and work, perseverance in faith, a sincere desire to learn from Jesus. So this is basically what really works and really help us. So one of the other books that I read was the O Consolador by Emmanuel, and there's a question there, question 351, that says, we need to face this new formula of love for ourselves, aware that any good achieved by us for the benefit of others is nothing but the good of our own soul, due to the reality of one law, which is that of love, and a single dispenser of goods, which is God. So this is basically, as I said, it puts you in a position that shows you how humane you are and how everyone else also is. And it creates this feeling of one helping the other. So I want to kind of conclude with two things. So one of them is, I was watching this interview, and so Joe Rogan is this guy. He does this show, which is the Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan show, something like this. And he was interviewed Jordan Peterson, which is one of the psychologists that in the spotlight at the moment. So he does a lot of talks. He wrote a few books. One of them was very famous, which is 12 Rules of Life. He's a professor in the University of Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, in Canada. Well, he has done a lot of studies in psychology, and he, for me, like, he's really good. So I just wanted to share with you guys what he talks about, and the reason why I want to talk about it is because it shows how aligned, again, I want to say that because I love it, how aligned is Spiritism is with science, and everything that he talks about is based on science, right? So he did a lot of studies, he read a lot, and everything is based in science. So he, in this interview, he talks about this thing that everyone always says, that you need to feel good about yourself, right? So you need to feel good about the way you are. And he questions that because for him, you should and you shouldn't, right? So you should feel good about yourself because, let's say, for example, if you want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu and you go to your first class, you are okay the way you are because you're only starting and it's your first class. There's a process that you need to take. So at the moment, you're good, you are okay the way you are, but in relation to the goal, you're not, right? So in the greater goal, you're not okay the way you are. So you have to work on these things. And he talks about the danger of telling people that they are okay the way they are, because a lot of times you're suffering. There's so much going on in your life, and like really bad stuff that can happen to us. And when you are in this situation, there could be a lot of things going on, especially for young people. There could be bad parenting, a lot of abuse going on, bullying, all of those bad things, horrible things that happen to people, unfortunately. And if you say to this person, you need to love yourself and you're good the way you are, you're okay the way you are, they would say, well, so they won't know what to do with it. They would say, well, that's it. There's nothing I can do about it. So it kind of gives that, makes them feel that they don't have power. And actually saying to people, you are not good the way you are, is not bad, in the sense that you just want to show them that they have so much potential in them. They can change their lives completely in an unimaginable way, in this, several dimensions. And they have this power. We all have this power within us. And we read this stories about people like Oprah that overcome difficulties in their life and became so great. So these stories, they inspire us, but they also, they inspire us, and they also show us how much potential we have in ourselves. So if we focus on the things, I'm not saying they are easy. I'm not at all say they're easy. And when you say to someone, you can be better, you're not only telling them that you understand what happened to them and this is not good, and because they have this feeling of appreciation when you say that to them. You also say to them that they can do a lot about it and they can become better. So you give them this hope that they didn't have before, right? So, well, I can send you guys the interview, and maybe seeing the interview, you understand better, because maybe I think he explains in a better way. But basically, it is important for us to assess our humanity and understand that we are in this journey of progress. We have problems, we accept them, but we also understand that we can be way better, and we will in the future. So I want to end with the story about this elephant. So we call it the elephant in chains. So I'm going to read it. When I was little, I was enchanted by the magical world of the circus. I was excited to be able to see up close each of the animals that traveled in caravans from city to city. During the show, everything seemed wonderful and stunning, but the appearance of the elephant was always my favorite moment. The huge animal showed impressive dexterity, size, and strength. It was evident that such an animal would be able to uproot a tree with a simple pole. However, to my surprise, after each performance, the circus people tied the elephant to a small stake, simply driven into the ground. This was a great mystery to me. Although the current was thick and strong, an animal capable of breaking down a wall with its strength could easily free itself from the stake and escape. What was holding the elephant? Why not run? When I was 5 or 6, I was I still believed that grown people knew everything. So I questioned the teachers, my uncle, and my mother about the mystery of the elephant. They explained to me that the elephant did not run away because it was trained. As is logical, I asked them then, if it was trained, and that was why it doesn't run away, why is it chained? No one was able to answer that second question. Much later, one night, I met someone very wise who had traveled through India and who helped me find the answer. The circus elephant had been chained to a stake since very, very young. I remember that I closed my eyes and thought of the little newborn elephant attached to the stake. I imagined him pushing and pulling the stake day after day, trying to break free. I could almost see him falling asleep every night, exhausted from the effort, thinking to try again the next morning. Everything was useless. The stake was too strong for a newborn animal, even if it was an elephant. Until one day, the saddest of the days of his short life, the little elephant accepted that he could not free himself and surrendered to his destiny. I understood then why the huge and powerful elephant I saw in the circus was letting itself be chained. It was convinced that it would never be able to free itself from its stake. The poor animal had failure recorded in his memory as an elephant, and he had never again tested his strength. Some nights I dream that I approach the chained elephant and say in his ear, "You know, you look like me. You also believe that you cannot do some things just because once, a lifetime ago, you tried and failed. You have to realize that time has passed and today you are stronger than before. If you really want to free yourself, I'm sure you can do it. Why don't you try?" Sometimes I wake up thinking that one day my elephant finally tried and managed to pull the stake. Then I smile and imagine that the huge animal continues to travel with the circus because it loves to amuse the children, although obviously it is no longer chained. So this was written by George Piquet. So this is an article, and it was published in the Archiplural editions. So it's on the internet, and it was published in 2008. So I think that's it from me today, guys. I hope I explained everything in a good way. It's a bit challenging, and it's a very emotional topic as well. So I hope it worked. This is the bibliography. As I said, a few books from Joanna de Angelis, also the Spirit's book from Allan Kardec, and I also searched some websites. Let me just see if there's any question. I don't think there's any. Okay. So I don't think there's any question, guys. So I'm going to finish with the final prayer. If you could close your eyes. Thank you so much, dear God, for our talk this morning. Thank you so much for everything that you always teach us. Thank you for being with us on our way to perfection all the time. Thank you for all the opportunities that we have that help us develop our self-esteem, our love for ourselves, and help us progress and acquire a spiritual maturity. Thank you so much for our surroundings, for our resources, for our relationships, and for our existence. So be it. So I think that's it, guys. Again, thank you so much. Have a great day. I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday. And just very quickly before we finish, I just want to say that we have our activities. So we have our public meetings every Sunday. And you know that because you're here, but if you are seeing it after the talk, it's every Sunday from 11:15 a.m. Irish time. We also have our talk shows every Tuesday and every Thursday. It is 7:15 p.m. Irish time as well. We have our study groups every Wednesday. So if you want to participate in our study groups, just send us an email or send us a message on Facebook. And it's from, I'm not sure if it's 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. Oh, sorry, from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Every Wednesday. Okay. So that's it. Then thank you so much. Again, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.